Welcome back to Tackle on My Mind. What's on my mind today? It's another Fireside Chat. Today's Fireside Chat, I'm going to go over last year's tournament schedule for Toledo Area Kayak Anglers League, plus there's a couple other tournaments I ended up fishing in. Just kind of breakdown of how I did in each of those tournaments, kind of a recap, some of the lures I might have thrown, where that placed me, what I learned from all that. And then I think I'm going to do another episode, maybe for a week after this one, maybe somewhere down the road, be part 2, going to kind of break down the upcoming season, what I'm kind of looking forward to there, how I might attack each of those bodies of water. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, maybe wait till the end, watch the whole thing, hopefully get some information for you. If you're watching my channel, watching my videos, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. All right, help me out there. So, Toledo Area Kayak Anglers League. I've talked about that a lot. That's the TAKAL, small kayak league. Fish a lot of area lakes, rivers, reservoirs up in northwest Ohio and the Toledo, Ohio area. Averaged about 10 to 12 anglers per event last year. We do have a year-end championship called the Tackle Box. We also tally points for each tournament, and goes for an Angler of the Year towards the end of the year also. Basically the tournaments are, we go 10 points for a win on down. Last year, if you entered, and even if you didn't catch a fish, you still got a point. So that kind of figured into a few things there. But just a quick rundown. I don't want to take too much time here. But where did we start out? So we started out on Nettle Lake up in the northwest corner of Ohio. I was looking forward to this event, fishing Nettle. Fished it the year before. Actually won that tournament. I know there's some big fish in Nettle. It's a fun place to fish. We got there a little earlier in the year this year. We kicked it off in May 5th about when we hit that tournament. So I was pretty excited about this one. We had a pretty nice day, if I recall. Got there, fished the places I knew, some laydowns, some lily pads, a few boat docks, nothing. I threw some typical stuff. I threw wacky rigs and things like that. I finally pulled out the lipless, red lipless, caught some smaller fish, pulled out chatterbaits and caught smaller fish. More end of that story is basically I skunked at the first tournament of the year. Kind of left a nasty taste in my mouth. I said, uh-oh. Hey, I was pretty psyched, ready to go for the year, and you hit that first one, don't put a scoreable fish on the board. I caught a few fish, they were just all too small. So, not sitting real good in points, obviously, there, but, it's only one tournament. We got quite a few to go. From there, we went to our event. We call it MOM. It's different bodies of water. One is there's a inland lake at Maumee Bay State Park. There's a ramp in the Oregon, Ohio area that kind of basically fits into a big bay that opens up into Lake Erie. There's a Meineke Marina, which also is right off of Lake Erie. And then there's Metzger's Marsh. All of those are accessible. Every year we've done this, my overall goal is to hope to fish that ramp in the Oregon area, off of Oregon, Ohio, right there. It's got a lot of riprap. Got a marina over there, like throwing the crankbait early in the year and stuff like that, and it's just kind of a fun way. But what I have discovered fishing there over the years is if you got an east wind blowing into that bay over there, it dirties up the water. The fish there, for whatever reason, don't bite when the water's mucky and dirty and stained. So once you know, going into this tournament, we had a consistent, about 3 days before, east wind, wasn't even going to touch it. So I ended up fishing that inland lake at Maumee Bay. Started out really well. I was fishing that red lipless, hit a fish, probably a 15, 16, got it right up to the boat. I hit the release button on my reel, gave him slack, lost that fish. I just struggled the rest of the day. I think I did end up catching, I'm going to look at my notes here real quick. Yeah, I did end up catching 2 fish. Again, both small ones. The winner of that event took home about 48.25 with his 3 fish limit. All of our tournaments are 3 fish limit. You know, my biggest fish that day was 12 and a half. Only caught 2. Again, not a great start that I was looking for. Ended up fishing the spot. I had caught fish there before, just couldn't find them that day. So again, not sitting really great in that points race, but again, it was early in the year. Event 3, that was a new lake for us. That was Harrison Lake, again, Northwest Ohio Lake. I've camped there many times. A few of us have fished there. We just thought, you know, this lake should have some bass in it. We've heard there's bass in there. They're just not a lot of them, and no one found any real big ones. So that was another day. It was a real struggle. I think there's very few limits caught that day. Matter of fact, I caught 1 fish and ended up in 4th place. I lost a small one earlier, but that was one of those days where I struggled all day long, didn't get anything. In about the last hour and a half, I caught that 1 fish, and I've never been so happy about catching 1 fish because it quickly moved me up in the standings because I knew no one else was catching them. So that just added some good points there. So only 1 fish, but actually got some decent points for that one. After that, our next place we went to was Cullen Park. That's another kind of a bay, opens up into Lake Erie. The mouth of the Maumee kind of opens up into that area. So there's a lot of options. We had some guys go down the river a ways. I kind of just stuck in that little area there. That was one of our better events of the year for tackle. I think all but 1 angler caught their limit that day. Caught them all, most of them on a worm. Stick worm, wacky rig style, also Texas rig style, all weightless. Did pull out a 17-incher out of that one at about 47.75 total inches. Good enough for 4th place. Just kind of funny how tournaments work. You know, I was just talking about that Harrison Lake tournament. 1 fish, 13.75 fish, 4th place. Cullen Park, I had to get 47.75 inches worth of fish for 3 with a 17-incher and still 4th place. But I still picked up some points. Sitting about 5th in the Angler of the Year at this time. Not too bad. Got some good tournaments coming up. The next one on the event after that was Tackle did a charity tournament for the Toledo Humane Society. We held that at the East, West, and Middle Harbors out in Port Clinton, Ohio. If you're familiar with those areas, you know there are bass all over the place out there. You can fish any of the harbors you want. Typically what's well known, what I've kind of discovered too, East Harbor is good for quantity of fish. You can catch a lot of bass over in East Harbor. West Harbor for me and for a lot of other people have always kind of said better quality, so you might catch some bigger fish. So I went over there, we fished that area, tried out a new bait. You heard about this in some of my videos towards the end of the year. You might hear about it again in this video. I'll talk about it in one of the tournaments, and hopefully this coming season we'll hear a lot about this bait, and that's the Hybrid Hunter. I caught some nice little fish on that Hybrid Hunter. Fishing the grass. There's grass in East West Harbor no matter where you go. There's going to be a lot of grass. And then I found a little quiet little area. Grass was growing up all over the place. Caught a big kicker on a speed worm. I think she was, I gotta look here, it was 18.25. That was a fish I needed. I ended up winning that charity tournament. Now, we did count that for our AOI points, so that, you know, helped me out a lot. But the guys I was chasing finished 2nd and 3rd. So I didn't gain a lot of points on them. After that event, I was still in 5th place. After that, we went to Reservoir, Municipality Reservoir, Beaver Creek Reservoir. Your typical kind of city reservoir that you know, supplies water for the city that it's by. rock line, deep water, clear water. Did have a little bit of grass, a couple spots. I had pre-fished it a few days earlier. Had a good plan of what I was going to do. That one, if you watched any of my videos in the past, is the tournament I almost sunk my kayak in. So, not a great tournament for me. Again, caught no fish, but fortunately, I didn't lose anything in points because, again, those that fished ahead of me were already ahead of me in points, so I didn't lose, you know, I might have lost some ground to them, but I didn't lose my place in that, so that wasn't too bad. After that, we did an event. This was not a points event, but we did a team event out at East-West Harbor again, out in Port Clinton. My wife Jamie and I formed our team, and we went out there and fished West Harbor again. Kind of that same area. Caught some decent fish there. A couple of memorable things about that. I think the wind was blowing at times, probably gusting up close to 20 miles an hour. Not fun when you're in a kayak. Made it pretty tough. Consistently, it was blowing about 15 miles an hour all day. But we found a couple calmer areas that were guarded from the wind a little bit. And you know, the whole time I was out there, it's also, well, everyone else is dealing with this too. Another memorable thing about that is in a team event, you need both members of the team to catch at least one. And Jamie helped us out. She caught one fish, and I'll always remember that as she turned to me and said, that fish was right where he was supposed to be. So, we didn't win it. I think we came in third place in that one. Had a great time though. Not a points tournament. Followed that one up with the Blanchard River. If you're familiar with Northwest Ohio, Blanchard River flows through Findlay, which is where we mostly do, but it also it feeds into the Auglaize River, which feeds into the Maumee, which, as we know, feeds into Lake Erie. So I always kind of joke that from any place in this tiny little river, Blanchard, if you really wanted to, you could make it all the way to Lake Erie, which in turn you could make it all the way to the Pacific Ocean, which could make it to the Mississippi River, which means you could make it to the Missouri River, which means you could make it all the way into Montana from the Blanchard River. Think about that. You could actually make it anywhere in the world from the Blanchard River. Fun little river, a lot of smallmouth in this river. My wife and I, Jamie, fished the same section. We kind of fished together a little bit there too. She won it. Very proud of her. Super excited. I took second. That really helped me out because I needed those points. Just a fun river to fish. I think I fished topwater through most of the day, threw some chatterbait, met spinners. Love those on the river. Great smallmouth bait there. Followed that with Resthaven Wildlife Area. This is a group of lakes that are, were flooded land, I guess it was. A lot of flooded timber, different grass. There's at least, I think there's 10 different little ponds and lakes you can fish. Some of them are pretty shallow now and not as accessible. Most everyone always fishes the one bigger lake. That memorable one was Hurricane Helene, I believe it was. We were on the end of that, and that was kind of what was blowing through Ohio and that. So we had rain and high winds and basically stormy-like conditions. But I had one of my most fun tournaments there. I threw a buzzbait all night long, the evening tournament, and just caught a bunch of fish on that. Show you what that kind of lake produces where we were at. I ended up with 50.5 inches total for three fish. My biggest fish was 18. I finished fifth. So we had 5 guys over 50 inches of fish there. The winner, I believe, winner had 55.25, and his biggest was 18.75. So we had a lot of 18-inch fish caught. It was just a lot of fun. I mean, except for the weather, I think, that might have led to it. But after the Blanchard and after that tournament, I've now bumped up. I'm as third place in the Angler of the Year. So those were some pretty good tournaments for me. Next event after that, we go to the La Swan wildlife area. Again, back up in northwest Ohio, little chain of lakes up there loaded with bass, loaded with bluegill, some big bass, but just a lot of little bass. What we did fun about this event is we said you could only pick one lure. You know, you could go with a weightless, you know, stick worm, or a weighted curly tail worm, you know, a Texas rig worm. You could throw a spinner bait, you could throw a fluke, you could throw a frog, which is what I ended up doing. Knowing that, you know, that might not catch the most fish, but I had some fun throwing a frog around up there about a week before that, and I said, I know I can catch some fish doing this, and I'm just gonna have a lot of fun doing it. I lost a lot of, I mean, I had a lot of blow-ups, didn't catch nearly as many. If I'd have caught every fish I got, I'd have finished a little higher in the tournament. But again, I had a great time. I did end up, you know, it was, in this tournament, we also, it wasn't just 3 fish, it was all the fish you could catch, you know, with that 12-inch minimum. So I ended up with 6 fish. I had 78, 75 total inches. First place had 221 inches of fish. So he caught quite a few. I know he was using a stick worm. Probably the way to go, but I don't know if I could spend a whole day just fishing a stick worm all day. Maybe. Event after that, it was the Silver Rock Quarry, Aldrich Pond, and Metzger's Marsh again. If you're not familiar with Silver Rock, that's a big stone quarry in the Gibsonburg area. Some big smallmouth in there. There's also some largemouth in there. Aldrich Pond's a little pond that also has some nice largemouth. I had fished there a number of times, and I was really, you know, again, kind of psyched for that tournament. I had been there about a week before too, knowing that it was more grass than I'd ever seen there, but I still thought I had a pretty good plan. I caught a fish early on, and I just couldn't get him to bite. Yeah, kind of, again, fishing my style. I like moving baits. I fished some topwater. I did slow down, throw a worm around a little bit. I just couldn't get him to bite. Didn't do very well there at all. Actually ended up in 9th place. I think we had 10 or 11 anglers, only 2 fish. So that one was a little disappointing, but I remained in 3rd place in the AOI standings. Next, we went to the Lima reservoirs. That's all the reservoirs in Lima, Ohio. You pick a reservoir and fish it. A couple guys had fished any of them before. It was new to most of us, so we kind of liked that idea of it. Again, I did all right. I liked the way I was fishing. I picked an area I could throw a crankbait around. Caught a fish early, had one on early, ended up losing it. Ended up in 4th place again on that one. I really think if I'd have landed that other fish, I might have moved up to 3rd place, because I think I was out of 3rd place by like about a 1/4 inch, and I know that fish was bigger than my smallest one. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of guys enjoyed that. Again, 1st place in that one had 56 1/4 inches. Caught some big largemouth in one of the reservoirs. As big as was 19. But that's fun. We're probably going to be returning to that place. And then our last one was the Upper Sandusky reservoirs. You could pick one of the 2 reservoirs there. That one, I did a video on that, kind of what I was going to go into, how I was going to fish it ahead of time. Had a plan all in mind. And at the end of my practice session for that, I said, I'm not sure this is going to work. Let's change everything. Went into it, changed my idea, pulled out a crankbait, fished a crankbait, ended up winning that tournament. So that helped me out from that other one. Didn't get me higher in 3rd place, but really, you know, put me in pretty good position for 3rd place. So I knew going into the tackle box, it was going to take me to totally bomb out, and the guys behind me to probably win it all. Which then also meant the 2 guys that were ahead of me, who had been winning a lot that year, were also going to have to totally bomb out. for those guys to pass, and for me to even catch them was going to be pretty difficult. But I was happy going in, knowing I'd be third place. So then hopefully I could try to win the tackle box. Tackle box was back at East West Harbors again. It's a little later in the year. I had September 15th is actually when it was. The year before tackle box, I fished West Harbor again, my same spot I usually do. I caught one fish. I just wasn't comfortable fishing West Harbor. I just didn't think I'd do very well. I did get a chance to pre-fish East Harbor for that weekend. I found a nice stretch, kind of on accident. I was headed across the harbor I was just headed to a spot I wanted to go, and across the way I found this huge grass flat. And that's pretty much where I spent most of my time. A few other anglers spent some time in that area too. Ended up catching 51.75 inches total. My biggest was a 1775, and ended up with third place. So another third place, secured my third place AOI standings. That was nice because with that came, we do a couple things this year for tackle. If you were in the top 4, you got to go to the Bass Nation's state kayak tournament in Ohio, which is down in Hoover Reservoir. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. And then also we do with all the other small regional leagues in Ohio, at the end of the year we take everyone's top 4 anglers and we do a team event. And this year that was at Knox Lake, and that was a lot of fun too. So there's always some incentive to at least finish in that top 4. Obviously, winning AOI would be really cool, some really cool prizes that come with that. And to say, hey, I was the Angler of the Year. That's kind of cool. So that was the tackle season. Was really happy with it. Overall, I really learned some things as I went along. We got some really good anglers in tackle, and kind of put some pressure on you to, make sure you're doing it right, make sure you're fishing clean every time out. And as I stated in my last video, I really learned kind of what my strengths were and what I like to do and how I like to approach the lake and how I like to approach fishing. So that wrapped up tackle, and I decided, I got time. The Ohio Kayak Fishing was holding their last tournament of the year on Mosquito Creek Lake up in northeast Ohio. I had fished there 3 times, caught some fish each time. The last year I really didn't do very well at all. 2 years prior to that, I did, caught a decent amount of fish, just nothing with any good size that helped me tournament standings. So I had an area, well picked out that I knew I could just, try to fish it, and if everything worked out, I think I'd do pretty well there. So that's the one where, I pulled out that hybrid hunter, and it wrecked them all day. I was catching them. I caught the biggest was a 2175. I caught another 20-incher. I caught an 18. Anyway, I ended up with 93 inches, 93.75 inches. My biggest again was that 2175. Ended up winning that tournament. Cloud 9. Wherever. I was stoked. To win a state level tournament like that was pretty cool. To know that, I could put it all together, fish against the best anglers in the state of Ohio, really. Many of the, in the state of Ohio that were there fishing, guys that had won a lot of tournaments in Ohio, kayak tournaments and stuff like that, and knowing that I can go up against them, and when things are working out, I can stay with them and beat them. So that was pretty cool. And then I wrapped up my year, as I said, down at Hoover Reservoir. That was the Bass Nation Ohio State Tournament. If you finished in the top 8, I think there's almost 20 anglers, right around 20 anglers. If you finished in the top 8, you got to go to the Classic next spring. Pre-fished about a week before, had a pattern down. I knew I was gonna found some rocky banks again. Excuse me. Rocky points. I was gonna fish a crankbait, either square bill or a DT8, DT10. Fishing those crankbaits along the way. the difficult thing, and I got a video about that too, just to wrap it up, was every time I went someplace there was someone already there or someone's just leaving that area. So I think my spots were getting picked over pretty good. Caught a few on the crankbaits, and then I just said, you know what, I got to catch fish. I pulled out a wacky rig and started fishing laydowns and stuff like that. Ended up not quite where I wanted to, 10th place, but had a good time, had a great season. It was a great way to wrap up the year. I've met some good people along the way. Enjoy the tackle gang and all the anglers that fish along with that. So that was my, how we got to the end of last year, and now I am super fired up going in this year. I'm a tackle guy. I got all my tackle pretty much set up already. I'm ready to go today. Snow on the ground though, so I don't think I'll be doing that for a while. We do have a spring kind of big bass tournament going on through tackle through the month of March, and then we kick it off April 26th is our charity tournament again. So I'm going to go over that on my next video. But as I said, if you like the video, hit that like button, share the video, hit that subscribe. If you're just coming along and watching, thank you for watching. But just punch that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out, might help us all out in the long run. I can get some things to help out with content and stuff like that. So thanks for coming along, thanks for listening, thanks for joining me. Have a great day.